Hola, buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches, no importa de dónde estás, te mando saludos. And this is going to be my first video of many series on how to engage in conversational Spanish, especially for people of color that are in the West Coast. I know as a native, as a fluent Spanish speaker, when I go out and speak Spanish every single day, I am inundated with racism and with all kinds of comments like, oh my God, qué bien hablas español. Oh my God, tú puedes hablar español. And even though I'm speaking in Spanish, they act in so much shock. And it's really to discourage you. And I really think that it stems from jealousy. I think it stems from them wanting to maintain a stereotype that you are dumb and are incapable of learning Spanish as a Black person. And they want to feel superior to you, knowing that they are bottom of the barrel if they are indigena blood or have indigenous blood, and they can't speak a lick of English, but here you are in your full melanated activated power speaking Spanish. I taught high school Spanish for a few years, and I remember I was grading these Mexican, Guatemalan, Salvadorian students on how to speak el castellano, which is the Spanish of Spain, and not their broken Spanglish that is so ubiquitous in Los Angeles. So I am saying that as a disclaimer here because I want to make sure that people are not discouraged from practicing Spanish. Don't start becoming a bobo, which is a clown, to impress Mexican speakers in Los Angeles, when I promise you the majority of the Spanish that they're speaking is so broken that if they went to Spain, Spaniards would make fun of them. And definitely Cubans, definitely Boricuas. Like, there's this extreme orgullo, like this crazy pride amongst Mexicans, but it really stems from insecurity, and that's why they try to pick on and discourage Black Spanish speakers. But what I will tell you is that, especially for my Black women who are divesting, who are trying to date, Spanish men from the country, or like the country Spain, or maybe you've fallen in love with an Argentinian or un Venezolano, un Colombiano, que sea, and you want to be able to like make a good impression or to communicate con su abuela, with their grandmother or their grandparents or sus padres, like para la primera vez que se presentan a ellos, like the first time that they present them to you. I want you guys to be able to learn formal Spanish instead of asking your Mexican friends how to translate something and them giving you the wrong translation. I have a lot of Mexican friends, a lot of chapinas, which is like the slang for Guatemalan friends or the Salvador, who I love, but I have noticed a lot of errors in the way that they speak el castellano. The majority of the time no se hablan el castellano puro. So I want you guys to learn like the proper ways to say certain phrases, like lunch is almuerzo. It will never ever be lonche. Or parquear is not a word. It's estacionar el carro. Okay, so once I finish with those introductory statements, I will create another series on how to have introductory statements in Portuguese. So, for when you first meet a Spanish family, there's not a custom of like bowing or anything like that, like there would be in Yoruba culture. But there is, you do want to use a form of you that is usted, usted. And usted is like, it will follow all of the conjugations of third person he or she. But it's not tú, which is you, okay? It's not tú. Tú is informal. Tú can be used if you're like more of a native speaker and you're in a country that just, like they just, tutear. Tutear is like the word of like to say to, use the informal to. I know a lot of Mexicans, I rarely hear Mexicans use usted. I definitely hear a lot of Guatemalans use usted. Colombians use usted with everyone. It's a very respectful culture. and I think Venezolanos are like very similar as well. And Colombians speak the most pure Spanish outside of Spain. So if you ever hear a Colombian and they want to teach you something, tú tienes que aprender de ellos. Tienes que escucharles because they're probably telling you the right thing. Okay? But if you are meeting a parent of a love interest, you always want to translate in the third person. You can use usted and they won't, look at you down. They won't look down upon you because they'll know that you're not a native speaker and they'll know that you're making a concerted effort to show them respect, and that will definitely win you like points in their eyes. So if you're like, hi, how are you? You can say hola, or you can say a more formal phrase depending on the time of day, like buenos dias, buenos dias. Repítalo, buenos dias. And I also want to point out that when you speak Spanish, it's not like English where I can keep my mouth pretty much between here. With Spanish, you're going to be opening, closing, all of that. So you're going to have to be much more comfortable with the gymnastics of your mouth when you speak Spanish. Contrast that to Portuguese and French, which are very closed mouth and nasal languages, but I will discuss that in other videos. So, for example, if you are saying good morning, make sure you overuse your lips, at least in the beginning, so that you get very used to speaking in Spanish. So, good morning. Buenos, buenos, buenos días, buenos días, buenos días, buenos días, buenos días. Okay? ¿Cómo está usted? ¿Cómo está usted? Buenos días. ¿Cómo está usted? Good morning. How are you? Formally. Buenos días. ¿Cómo está usted? Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. ¿Cómo está usted? Buenas tardes. Good evening or good night. Buenas noches. Buenas noches. Buenas noches. ¿Cómo está usted? Buenas noches. ¿Cómo está usted? I will say that, especially for my African American women, who I noticed that in African American culture, the women are not super flirtatious. That might have been a protective mechanism because I know a lot of African American men were not really around to protect African American women, which might also be the reason why many African American women have adopted a more hardened stance. But in Latin culture, and when you're speaking Spanish, it is definitely gendered, and you're going to have to bring out that inner kitten, or else it's going to be weird when you're speaking Spanish. Like, I could easily be like, buenos días, ¿cómo está usted? And you can meet a lot of Spanish women, especially Mexican American women, that are very ingrained in American culture, where it's a lot less gendered than Latin cultures. But when you are speaking Spanish, you try to put your whole body into it. Buenos días. Hola, ¿cómo está? Buenos días. Buenos días. ¿Cómo está usted? Right? Buenas noches. Okay? A lot of women, you'll notice, will even elevate their voice when they are explaining something to be, it's just more emphatic. It's a more emphatic language. You're using a lot of your mouth, you're using a lot of expression, and you don't really like hold back when you speak Spanish. What are some other useful phrases? I would always give a compliment when I meet a parent of a Spanish culture for the first time. So you can say, se ve bien usted. Se ve bien. Se ve tan bien. You look so good. Se ve tan bien hoy. Usted está vestido súper bien hoy. Or if you're complimenting a woman, usted está vestida súper bien hoy. Se ve súper bien hoy. Qué linda está. This is not the Me Too movement in Spain. They compliment women on their beauty all the time, and it's something to be received and to be given with grace, not with indignation. So, que bella usted ve. Se ve tan bella. Se ve tan bella. Se ve tan bella. Usted está bien vestido or bien vestida. You will have to pay attention to O endings, which are masculine, and A endings, which are feminine. I'm going to stop the video at 10 minutes because this was a super rough introduction, but I really want Black people to get more excited about speaking Spanish, especially in a place like LA where I know for a fact I've experienced so much just microaggression with the command that I have over the language. And I want to make sure that you guys push through and, don't stop learning the language or speaking it. So if this was a helpful video, comment below. Let me know what other phrases you guys would like to learn, or I'll just come on here and start doing random videos that I think would be of interest to you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hasta luego. Hasta luego. Hasta mañana.